Hey, how's it going? And welcome to the Shoveit Podcast. This is officially episode 1. All right? The official episode 1.
Yeah, you better.
The last one we did was, I don't know, like a mix mash setup thing. Proof of concept, I guess. But this is the first time I've actually sat down to just do this. If you're completely new to this, I felt like I needed a little bit of an introduction. You may have stumbled across this randomly going, what the Joe Bangles is this about? Well, my name's Dylan and I'm a professional creative person based in Northern Ireland. Now, I'm originally from South Africa, but I live in Northern Ireland and have done for a long time. Hence the messed up accent. Let's just get that out of the way. Because sometimes I talk to people for a bit and then they're like, I'll be chatting away for ages, and then they'll just you could see them looking weirder and weirder. Not them, they're looking at me with a weirder looking face, and then they go, "Sorry to interrupt you, mate, but where are you from?" And then I'm like I'm from South Africa. I'm like, "Oh, that's what it is." And it's like you just know that they've stopped paying attention because they're thinking, "Where the fuck is this guy from, and why is his accent so mangled?" So that's what it is. We get the flat bit of a South African accent. We get the peaky bit of the Northern Irish accent, which leaves me in a space where a lot of people go Australian, Canadian, and Irish, Dublin sometimes, which I don't understand. The Canadian and Australian I get. Australian's just a lazy one. If you meet a South African person and you go, "Are you Australian?" That's just lazy, right? That's just like, you're not from here, you must be from Australia. So I don't take lightly to the Australian one. If you say New Zealand, I'll let you away with it. South African. That was a long-winded way of getting around to that. So, yeah, I work as a professional creative person. And the reason that's so vague is it seems to change all the time. My background is in graphic design, and I've been a graphic designer and an art director for 16, 17 years, something like that. But more recently, I've been working on video production and photography. And those two mediums, we'll call them, have sort of followed me my whole way through my life. I've always been interested in just making things from a very young age. And that is what has led us to this moment now, a billion years later, finally bothering to sit down and record a podcast. So I wrote down in my book, right, for the idea for this episode, which was why now? And then I wrote nothing more. That was where the idea stopped. Because not the idea, just the train of thought stopped. And I was like, I'll just freestyle this because I want this to be a very conversational thing. I do intend to cover some stuff that I find interesting and do a bit of research into it just for my own interest. But for this, why now? So why start this thing now? What is this about? Well, this is basically because for so long I had this dream of this brand, this thing that I wanted to do, right? And it's always been like a direction. It never needed to turn into anything. It was a creative purpose. It was something to package everything under. And then I was working full time in the cycle industry. I loved it. And then when I went to work in the ad agency, I still used it and still did a little bit of it. And I learned to do other things. That's how I got into video and photos, because everything was driven by producing some sort of art or content stuff for the Shoveit brand thing. And it was like personal projects. My brother, my friend Ryan and we made a really cool mountain biking movie about a girl called Sasha Bickerstaff years ago, and it was all under the Shoveit brand. We made little hiking videos years and years ago. I've done designs. Anyway, that's what it's about. So it was all this stuff. I just like making these different things. And then when I went freelance, I was always like, once I go work for myself, that's when I'll be able to do something with this brand. And it just didn't happen. And I have no idea why. It was just a whole bunch of things happened, and it just felt like a good time. I was like, I think I'm ready for this. And luckily I've got the most supportive wife in the world who was like, I believe in you. I was like, well, that makes one of us. So I left to do design and photography. And now I do a whole mix of this sort of stuff, design, photo, video. And what's cool about it is, especially with video, which is probably what I primarily work on now, is that I get to bring all these elements in, things I've learned from photography, even actually using photos, but then also designing thumbnails and graphics, but in also designing graphics for the actual video or illustrating stuff to go into the video. I mean, I'm not a great illustrator, but I dabble a little bit. And I get now to do all those elements, and I get to work with a whole array of different people on a whole spectrum of different jobs, and I absolutely love it. I love what I do. I love working with all people. I love all the people. Just all the people. I like working with like loads of different people, and I like the fact that it's ever changing. It keeps my mind occupied. Remember, attention of a gnat. The one thing I haven't done is the Shoveit stuff, and it didn't feel like a big deal at the beginning. So when I was working in the agency, I started this Instagram page called Dill Takes Photos, and that was just off the side of my own current page that I had. It was just my name, and the point of that was I just wanted somewhere to put photos that were like photo project based. That wasn't about me. And I was like, I don't really want to stick this on my stuff, because I was doing Instagram stories on my own page, and they were quite personal stories and giving you an insight to my life. And I was like, I don't want to stick these. I fucking created this new Instagram page and started putting photos on that. And it opened up all these great opportunities. It's introduced me to new people. It opened up chances to work with local businesses and stuff from that. And I got sort of sucked into that influencer world in Northern Ireland. And I absolutely hate that phrase, because it's such a shit thing. That's an entire episode, how much Dill hates influencers. Not the people, just the concept of it. But anyway, I got sucked into that early days. And it was just like, come to an event and try this. But I loved it, because it meant you could go and check out new restaurants or tourist attractions or bars or experiences in and around the country. And you got to meet all these cool people. And I used to just make little Instagram videos of them. And they were sort of mini vlogs shot and edited on the phone and uploaded immediately. And it was great. It was such a good challenge. And I got to learn a lot from it. But I always went there with the concept of two things. What do I want to get out of it as a creative person? And then what does this brand and or business need me to do from a commercial point of view? Because I've got a commercial mind, because my background is commercial advertising and brand and stuff like that. So this was really, really quite an interesting move and allowed me to do all this new stuff. But in the meantime, what was happening was I was building up this sub-brand called Dill Takes Photos, which was never supposed to be anything. And then I had this stupid catchphrase called nibbles for a moment in time, which some people still love, which is effectively the art of just meaninglessly faffing around doing something unimportant. And it was very funny doing it and calling these photo trips nibbles. And again, though, it became a sub brand of the sub brand. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then at one point, I actually got a logo design done with my sister. Like she was studying art in one of the universities here, and I got her to help me design this brand for me, and also Dill Takes Photos. It was a personal brand just for me to brand my own stuff with, kind of signature based, and I wanted it to be kind of raw and earthy. And I couldn't fucking do it myself, because I kept designing the same things, right? If you're a creative person, or especially if you're a designer, designing your own logo is one of the hardest things to do in the whole world. So I got her to do this for me. But then I ended up with this friggin' brand, Dill Takes Photos. And then it got really confusing with my work, because people would contact me as Dill Takes Photos, but then I'd have to explain that I do design and video. And then I don't like it. I never liked it. It was just supposed to be an Instagram handle. It became everything. So one day I was just like, drew a line under it. Enough. And I sat and I worried for months, like, can I change my Instagram handle from Dill Takes Photos to Dylan Osborne? But what about the people that know me? Guess what? No one give a shit. After months and months of deliberation, I changed the name, and not a single human being even noticed. Or if they did notice, they didn't care enough to say, you changed your name. I think like a year later, someone was like, oh, what happened to Dill Takes Photos? And I was like, he's dead. Long live Dylan Osborne. But I didn't really have the full balls to do that, so I just flipped my account names around. Because, social media, it's tagged everywhere. If I just let someone else have the Dill Takes Photos tag on Instagram, I don't know, maybe somebody might go back 5 years ago and want to watch a little fella looking at a friggin' bar in Belfast. And then go, who's he? And then he goes, so I have the two. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? I wanted to do this stuff. And then I got stuck in this world of like work and other shit that I had to do and priorities and all this stuff. And I saw this diagram that made me laugh. That was like 3 circles that match. And it's like, it's aspects of your life. They could be whatever you want to be, but there's a point in the middle where they all merge, you know, like what you do for work, what you do for hobbies, and what you do to chill. And in the middle, every now and then, there's an overlap, and sometimes 2 overlaps, sometimes 1. Anyway, so it had 3 circles, 2 of which were connected, and it said things I have to do, and then the other one below it that looped over, there was things I want to do, and there was a sweet spot where they met in the middle. And then there was this other circle all on its own that was something like things I'm procrastinating on when I should be doing the other 2 things. And I laughed. I was like, that is my head. Like, that is how I work. And then it's like, when I do go back to that, I end up doing the things that have to be done. And then I never get a look at the things that I want to do, because I give all my time to things that have to be done. And then all the free time that I do have, that's not a lot, I procrastinate on meaningless tasks and stupid shit. Like, you'd be surprised the amount of things, little things. Like, you could be working on that, I know, but I've decided to take up paddleboarding. Why? Don't know. And you know what? I kind of like paddleboarding. So then I'm like, well, maybe that's something I want to do. Yeah, but maybe there's actually bigger things you want to do, and you've procrastinated on those by paddleboarding. Who the fuck knows anymore? I can't work out now what I like doing and what's procrastination. Maybe I just like procrastination. But those things are all merging together. Hobbies, procrastination have become the same thing in my life. So anyway, Shoveit was this thing. And then every time I want to make something, I'm like, oh, that doesn't really work. I can't just do that. Like, I can't, say I want to make a t-shirt. Like, I really want to print t-shirts, but I'd actually like to hand press them myself, you know, like, and it's like, if I want to do that, what do I put on the t-shirt? It needs a direction. It needs a brand. It can't just be, and that's literally as far as it can't just, and then it dies. Like, I can't put my name on it, but why would you put your name on it? That's ridiculous. You can't just, what am I going to put on it? A random word, a random quote? But what's that got to do with anything? And then my brain overthinks everything, and then I procrastinate further. So I was like, oh, I need a brand for this. I started like trying to come up with all these ideas and names. I was like, is it Dill Takes Photos? And then there was a part of me was like, oh, Dill Takes Photos is DTP. So maybe there's a clever abbreviation there for like desktop publishing. Huh? That sucks. It was almost too easy. Anyway, this went on for ages. And then one day I was just looking at my fridge in my studio, and the fucking Shoveit badge is there. And I was like, Shoveit. That's the brand. Shoveit. That's the brand you've wanted to do this with forever. What the hell are we doing? Running about like an idiot trying to find names. Shoveit's the brand. And I thought, this is it. We can do this. We can do Shoveit. And then 2020 arrived. Fuck a duck. What a year. Right? And basically, any small glimpse of enthusiasm that I had managed to rile up, and organization just died a very, very long, slow and tedious death from 2020 through 2021, as I lost the will to live and questioned everything that I thought I knew and procrastinated more than I ever have, and had these high spikes of creativity and these really, really low crashes. Like, I mean like, I have a great idea. Let's go to the beach and shave my head on a sand dune at the beach, and we'll fly a drone and we'll make a video all about enjoying the last time you might do something, and we can shave off the last of my hair. And I got people involved, and and it was fucking incredible. And I made a load of shit like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, lying on my face on my living room floor, just like, there's no point. There's no point. None of this matters. Who in the fuck cares? Why are we doing this? And I was like, so this is like an emotional roller coaster of procrastination, effectively, in the end. And that was all heavily, heavily spurred on by the things that were happening in the world And then the influx of people putting stuff onto social media. And I mean, like, there were always a lot of people putting stuff onto social media, but for the most part, a lot of people just would live in their lives. So you had some people who were documenting day-to-day shit, and then you had creative people, or, well, I'll just use that for now, creative people making stuff and putting it on social media and internet. So you had, like, this is a whole topic as well, which I'd love to come back to at some point. But then we had everybody who was like, oh, fuck, I got nothing else to do, so let's put extra shit on social media. Let's make something. And that has actually spurred a whole load of people who are now self-declared social media experts who run social media agencies. So that's a whole... But that is one of the things that has come from that. But everyone was... everyone was just in social media, screaming. Social media, like it's a room. And I used to do these talks years ago about creating stuff and putting it on the internet. And I always described the different social medias in this way. I was like, Instagram's like an art gallery. This is going back 4 years ago, right? Instagram's an art gallery. You create your art, you hang it on the wall, you invite people in to take a look. They have a little meander about. They go, oh, that's nice, I like that. Like that one. And you go, cheers. And then they ask you a question about it. That's a comment. A little bit of that back and forth happens. And then they go, oh, you know what, I might actually pop in here regularly to see what you've got. That's the interaction. It's quite nice. It's kind of chill. Facebook is like a family reunion, right? Where you're like at a funeral or a wedding and you land in there and it's just fucking loads of people and like just overstimulation. You see them, we're like, oh God, Christ. And you spend the whole day wading through all the fucking annoying human beings till you eventually find a fragment of interest in some human being. You're like, oh my God, you're not the worst here. Or maybe you are, but you get to them and you go, such and such. We can talk about this. We have something in common. Or you're doing something that interests me, right? Twitter is like going into a pub or a club, right? And it's noisy and everyone's sitting about doing their own thing. And you just walk into the bar and you just go, I got new shoes today. The laces don't tie very well. And you just look around like, guess what? No one gives a fuck because you've just shouted out random shit into a room. And you know what everybody else is doing? They're talking about little topics, their tables, talking about little things. So you've got to walk over to that table and find the table that interests you, right? These are all metaphors, by the way. Find the conversation at a table that interests you. Lean in and be like, oh, it's not about shoelaces. And then walk off to the other one. Oh, what are they talking about? Clothing. And then you go, what clothing you guys talking about? And someone's like, denim trousers. And you're like, oh, you're out. Then you hear somebody, I can't tie my shoes. Bang, straight in there. I have problems tying. And then you can throw in your random comment to a thing that, this is so stupid. But basically, you have to find a conversation where you're relevant or what you have to say is relevant. And then you start that and you chat with those people. That's how I used to explain that. All right. Now, everything feels like the first scenario in Twitter. Feels like the last couple of years, it felt like you were in the quiet pub in the conversation with the people that interested you, right? And you'd be like, I'm just away for a piss. And then you walked off to the toilet. And then when you walked back out, the whole bar was just fucking full of people everywhere. Just, look at this, look at this, look at this, shouting their own shit. And everybody showing it and fucking everything. And you've walked in and you'd be like, what the hell is actually fucking happening here? I went for a piss, I've come back and it's become a shit show. It's all gone to pot. What is happening? And that's how social media has felt for me for the last couple of years. And I've just been like battling this whole creative high, creative low, social media being a fucking minefield of bullshit and questioning what the whole point of it all is. It's been fine with client work because I'm all there. I'm all game on the client work and fully committed. It's just by the time I've got home from doing client work, I'm depleted of all creative enthusiasm. And then I can't do my own stuff. And that grinds my gears. It demotivates me so much. And then that spiral just continues, you know? You're demotivated because you haven't made something. So then, and then you haven't made something, so you're further demotivated, and then that just loops. It just keeps going, man. It just keeps going. I've seen patterns of it across the interwebs, loads of different people, and loads of friends of mine, I guess, are feeling exactly the same. And I just got thinking more in the last 6 months about what I wanted to do and where I felt things were missing from my life. And I get an amazing family life, and I get amazing friends, and I love what I do for a job, but I need that creative outlet where I make the rules, where I'm the client, where I go, yeah, let's fucking do that cool idea. Let's take that risk. Let's make that weird video. Let's try this thing. Because when you're working with clients, you're always working to their brief, but then also the things that restrict them or their business, or the things they can or cannot say. And that's great. I love that. But there's times where I'm like, and I want to make something a bit more risky, or I want to make something a bit more interesting, or a bit different even. And I used to always do that with the Shoveit stuff. I was always making these weird things on the side and trying things and learning stuff. And then when I get to here now, this position in my life, I'm not doing this. So that is what this is about. And I feel, to be fair, as much as I've complained about the last couple of years and how I struggle with those things, I did put out like a video every week on YouTube. Like, I was quite surprised when I looked back at the end of 2020, I think, or 2021, one of the two. I was like, fuck, I actually put a video up. And I put out some of my favorite work that I've done on YouTube. But, geez, fuck, there were lows in between those videos. Like, those videos were done like in a day. And then it was just like, big mad crash to the bottom. Sound effects. And, yeah. I felt like I'd achieved nothing. And when I looked back, I'd seen all these things that I'd done. And then I think that's just deteriorated further. I think I used up all that enthusiasm. I did also start a podcast with my buddy Ryan called the Over and Out Show that we did when lockdown first started. And that was great because it gave the two of us something to do. We learned things about microphones, things about Adobe Audition, things about podcasts and remote podcasting, how to do them and make them look really shit hot. And we produced a really great podcast as far as I'm concerned. But it'll still exist, and there'll still be things added as goes. It's a whole completely different entity, but that was good, and I did a whole bunch of other stuff that I quite liked, but then it just deteriorated like my ability to create and my want and desire to create. So I was like, finally I found some enthusiasm to do the Shoveit thing. And then, I'm not joking, I was like, oh, but that logo's out of date. The Shoveit logo was created when Adobe created CC, I think, Creative Cloud, Creative Suite, CS. When Adobe created CS, and it came out with the little Photoshop icons. It was heavily influenced by that. And the font was Arial Black because it was a font that I quite liked. And my dad laughed because he was like, oh, that's like a font I used in the friggin' 80s. And I was like, oh, I quite like it. And it's a bit of a ridiculous font. Like, I mean, it's so bland and it's so obvious, but it was a version of that. But it was sort of thrown together, and it had loads of alterations as it changed throughout the years. I'll show you that right now on screen. If you're watching it, you can see how it's developed over the years. So I was like, oh, I need to do a new logo. And then that became procrastination for months. And I fucking tinkered at this logo. And I mean, I moved an S and then reshaped the S and then adjusted the kerning. Was like, should it be on 2 lines? Should it say Shoveit Creative? Should the S? And then I changed loads of the letters. And then I redrew the letters so that they aren't. I never really liked the vowels in Arial Black. So I changed the vowels and recreated them myself, based loosely on other fonts, and then sort of amalgamated them all together to create what is the now new Shoveit logo, which I'm actually really friggin' happy with. It did take ages of tinkering, and I like instant gratification. So if I have to do things over a period of time, it fucking drives me insane. So this was really hard because I was tinkering little bits every single day and then changing it. But you know what it did? It allowed me to actually simplify everything to the way I wanted it to be. And then I was like, how do I launch it? How the hell do I launch it? And in the background in my head, I was thinking the whole time, we need I would love to do a more regular video on my channel. I would love to do a podcast format where I can just talk about my ideas. I did a feature called Just a Thought on this for a while back. There was like theories and things, right? Nah, that oversells it. Just me talking to camera, really. But then I also did a podcast series years ago called Coffee Chats, where I went into Belfast and I sat down with people who I found interesting, and we just had a conversation about stuff where we try to learn something about each other. I love doing all that stuff. From a production point of view, because I like to make those things, and I want to make those things, and also because I enjoy making those things. So I was like, well, how can I do that? Where can I tie that in with? And does that need its own channel? And should that have its own brand? And then I was like, no, Shoveit. The whole point of Shoveit is it's an attitude. It's an expression. It's creative procrastination, but it's a creative expression. So what better place to put it than with a podcast? Just launch the concept of with the podcast and create the Shoveit Podcast, a tone of voice, a creative expression, creative outlet. And for the love of God, make the thing, Dylan. Go and record the episodes and put it on the friggin' internet. I do understand the irony in what I just said, because I've just complained about everybody putting things onto the internet, and then here I am just going to put that onto the internet. I get that, right? That is a topic for a conversation or a podcast all by itself. That is prosumer or / creator and consumers on the other side, right? For another day, not for now. I overthink one video. So I go, what's the point of putting this one video up? Me just talk like this one right now. What is the point of me putting this one up? But it's like, it's there as a stepping stone for the next video, because I have all these friggin' ideas that I write down that I want to make, and I cannot get to them because, like I said right at the beginning of this, if I'm not making things constantly, I won't make anything at all. And that is why I told you about the Instagram story, because I did Instagram stories every day for like 3 years. Like, and I didn't skip a day, and I did them every day, and I filmed them, and I edited them on an iPhone in-app, and I was doing it in iMovie. Before vertical video was even an option to edit on a smartphone, I was bodging it in iMovie. I found a workaround with a whole bunch of shit, and I was adding tracks, and I was getting around the Instagram 15-second, 24-hour bullshit, and I was uploading 15-second videos, like a minute in 15 seconds at a time, with cuts in between them, and having to export every 15 seconds out before continually the app was around. And I was putting it up, and people were like, fuck, how are you doing cuts in a 15 second? And I was like, movie magic. I loved that challenge. It was incredible. I did it every day for 3 years. And my mate Ryan said to me, how can you be bothered? And I was like, if I don't do this every day, I'll just stop doing it. And I was right, because after three years, I took a break because I had to. The old mind took a 2-week break. I just didn't give a fuck after that. And then it was like I would go like through stints, like, oh yeah, every day for 6 weeks, and then just you didn't see me for a month. And I lost interest in that because I like the challenge of that, doing it every single day. So if I'm not making things all the time, I struggle to make anything at all. Luckily with the video stuff from the Instagram, I sort of swayed a bit more YouTube, and I still take photographs and things, but I really want to focus a lot more on YouTube because of long form content versus the short form stuff. Again, another episode all on its own. We'll get around to this because this is about kicking back and listening. I am a big fan of podcasts. I listen to them when I drive. I watch them on Sunday mornings. I also love video podcasts because I get a lot from the visual cues of people. I also am a visual cuey human being. Naturally, the way in which I move and explain stuff, I like doing that. So video is an interesting format. It also means I can fuck around with lights and microphones and stands and cameras. If you're watching, this light in the background, that's just where that is for now. This is a work in progress. What I'd like to do with this is rig this shit up in my van and then go and meet cool people and do cool podcasts in the van out and about. That's part of the plan. I just have to work out my microphone situation. I've got 2 other mics. I'm trying to work that stuff out, that I can do something that I like and I can take with me. But basically, I've created this because I want a space in which I can talk about things that I like, talk to people that I like, and I want a space where I can make something on a regular basis that can be either incredible, like I can go somewhere amazing and meet someone amazing and do something awesome and do a podcast about it. Likewise, I can just sit here by myself and talk to camera, because that means that the barrier for entry is lower, but the ceiling for success is super high. Success. That's just a thing I've just made up there right now. It basically means I can do something really simple and basic, or I can fucking push it, sky's the limit, right? That sort of stuff. Rather than making the whole thing this unachievable thing that I'll never get to do, because we all have a life we want to live. And while I love making all this stuff, it needs to fit in with what I'm doing. There needs to be, what is that saying? Like the passage of least resistance is the thing you'll do. And I do enjoy telling stories and sharing these things in all sorts of different ways. Visual, audio, drawing it, stop motioning in it, all that sort of stuff. So this is like a space for me to do that and for me to work with other people on that. So I hope you guys are if you've listened this far, thanks so much. If you've watched this far, thumbs up, fair play to you. I'm quite excited about the concept of what I'm going to do with this, and also the concept of what I'm going to be able to do with the brand Shoveit and how much fun I can have with that. And there'll be more of that as it goes, but let's just get this fucking rolling first before I overcommit. And on the overcommitting, I don't want to talk too much about those ideas that I have until they are something, all right? Because if I talk too much about them before I actually do them, I'll have my brain convinced that I've done them. Or I'll be so bored of talking about the idea that I'll not go ahead and do it. So thank you very much for sticking by. Thank you very much for tuning in, for listening, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't follow me on the interwebs, you can find me on all the socials at Dylan Osborne. Same as this YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify, go check out my YouTube channel. I make a bunch of cool videos on there. I think they're cool. You might love them. You might hate them. You won't know until you watch them. If you do go onto the YouTube, consider subscribing, right? That's where these videos are going to be hosted. And I'd appreciate any support if you're into the stuff that I make. If you're not interested, don't fucking subscribe. Don't watch it. Go spend your life consuming shit that you really, really like, or that mildly entertains you on a Sunday morning while you have coffee. Thanks very much for listening or for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. All the very best. Dildo Baggins. That's me, Dylan, by the way. That's what my sister-in-law calls me. Dildo Baggins. I've got used to it, and I kind of just ignore that she calls me that. But like sometimes you'll be in a bar and she'll see you and she'll shout, Dildo Baggins. And I'm like, or worse, when she just shouts dildo, and then you're like, yo, and then people look at you like, fuck, he thinks a lot of himself, that fella, doesn't he?
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.